Welcome to the Zero Fluff Books Podcast. I'm Lauren, and I'm really glad you're here. This is episode 1, the very beginning of what I hope becomes your go-to space for cutting through the confusion around bookkeeping. Now, before we get too far in, let me tell you what this show is and what it isn't. It's not a podcast full of accounting jargon that only a CPA would understand. It's not a podcast that's going to make you feel guilty for not having your books perfectly balanced since day one. And it's definitely not a podcast where we take 3 hours to explain what could be said in 10 minutes. What this podcast is practical. It's about giving you clear, direct, usable education that helps you keep your books clean and your stress level down. Zero fluff, just clean books. Because here's the thing, most small business owners don't fail because they couldn't sell. They fail because their books are a mess. Cash is coming in, expenses are going out, and on the surface everything looks fine. You're busy, you're getting orders, you're sending invoices, but underneath, the money map doesn't make sense. You're left guessing, and guessing is stressful. Let me give you a picture. Imagine an Etsy seller. We'll call her Sarah. She's making beautiful handmade jewelry. Orders are steady, her customers love her work, and her sales dashboard makes her feel like she's finally made it. But Sarah has one problem. Every deposit that hits her bank account is a mystery number. Some days it's $82.43. Other days it's $516.92. And she can't tell you which order matches which deposit, or what part of that deposit was eaten up by Etsy fees. She's constantly asking herself, am I actually making money or just moving money around? That's a stressful place to live. Now let's shift to another example, a tradesman. We'll call him Mike, running a small plumbing business. Mike is fantastic at his craft. He's booked out weeks in advance because people trust him. But Mike uses the same debit card for both his family's groceries and his work truck repairs. His bank statement looks like a tangle of gas stations, Home Depot runs, grocery store trips, and random Amazon charges. When tax season comes around, Mike spends weeks trying to remember, was that $237 at Lowe's for a bathroom install, or was it for the new grill his wife wanted? Mike isn't lazy. Mike isn't bad with money. Mike is just like most small business owners, caught between keeping the work going and figuring out the numbers later. And here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Later never comes. Later turns into a year of chaos. Later turns into a shoebox full of crumpled receipts. Later turns into that pit in your stomach when you get a tax notice or realize you don't actually know how much profit you made last month. That's why this podcast exists, to stop the cycle of later. Now let me back up for a second and tell you about the name Zero Fluff Books. I chose that name on purpose because I've spent enough time inside the accounting and tax world to know that people throw around way too much fluff. You don't need a 30-slide PowerPoint about the history of double entry accounting. You don't need someone lecturing you on generally accepted accounting principles if all you're trying to do is reconcile your Etsy payouts or figure out if you can afford a new tool for your workshop. What you need is clarity, straight answers, steps that fit into the way you're already working. Zero fluff, just clean books. And clean books don't just matter for tax season, they matter every single day. Clean books mean you know if your side hustle is actually making money or just breaking even. You can price your products with confidence because you know your real cost. You can spot when an expense category is creeping too high and eating into your profit. You can make decisions without that, I'm not sure if I can afford this voice in your head. And maybe, most importantly, clean books give you peace of mind. Because let's be honest, running a small business is stressful enough. Orders to fill, clients to serve, marketing to keep up with, supplies to buy. The last thing you need is to also feel lost in your own numbers. Here's what you can expect from this podcast. Every week, we're going to take one piece of the bookkeeping puzzle and break it down into plain English. We'll cover things like how to set up a business bank account and why it matters, how to actually understand the money flowing through Etsy or Shopify, what a chart of accounts is and why it's simpler than it sounds, how to reconcile your books without having a panic attack, how to build simple, repeatable monthly routines so that you're not scrambling at tax time. Each episode will be focused, practical, something you can listen to in the shop, in the car, or while packing up your next round of orders, and then actually go apply it. I'll be your guide through it all, but my goal isn't to make you dependent on me or anyone else. My goal is to empower you to understand your numbers, to give you the education you didn't even know you needed, so that bookkeeping feels less like a foreign language and more like part of your business rhythm. Now let's talk about why this matters. Why does bookkeeping matter for you right now, even if you think you're too small or too busy? It matters because when your books are messy, you're making decisions blind, and blind decisions are dangerous. You can sell out every week at your local craft fair and still lose money because you don't realize how much shipping materials and transaction fees are cutting into your margin. You can be fully booked for jobs in your trade business and still feel broke at the end of the month because personal and business expenses are tangled together. Bookkeeping is the lens that lets you actually see what's happening. It's not just about compliance. It's not just about filing taxes. It's about clarity. It's about taking the guesswork out of your business. And I'll be real with you. Clarity is addictive. Once you've had a taste of knowing your numbers, of being able to pull up a simple report and actually understand it, you won't want to go back to chaos. It's like cleaning your garage. Once you can finally see the floor again, you're not going to want to pile it up with junk a week later. So as we start this journey together, here's what I want you to know. You don't have to be good with numbers to be good at bookkeeping. You don't have to be a CPA or love spreadsheets or suddenly become the kind of person who enjoys filing receipts. You just have to be consistent. Consistency beats perfection every single time. And if you take nothing else from this first episode, let it be this: clean books equals less stress. That's the heartbeat of everything we'll talk about on this podcast. Every system, every tool, every tip, it's all pointing back to that one truth. Clean books equal less stress. So here's what we're going to do. In today's episode, I'm going to walk you through what bookkeeping really means for a small business, not in theory, but in practice, why it matters, how it impacts your daily decisions, and what you can expect to get out of building clean habits now instead of waiting for later. By the end of this episode, my goal is for you to walk away not just understanding bookkeeping a little better, but actually feeling motivated to give your numbers the attention they deserve. Because once you do, you'll see your entire business differently. All right, let's get started. All right, so let's get into it. Let's talk about why bookkeeping actually matters. Because here's what I know. If you're like most small business owners, especially if you're a tradesperson or an online seller, bookkeeping is usually at the very bottom of your to-do list. You're focused on the work, the craft, the service, the sales. You're focused on keeping customers happy, getting jobs done, and making sure you've got enough inventory or supplies for the next week. And when you finally do sit down to look at your numbers, it feels like a mess. So the temptation is to push it off, to say, I'll deal with it later. I'll catch up when things slow down. But like I said in the intro, later never comes. And here's the part nobody talks about. Ignoring your books doesn't just make tax time harder. It quietly eats away at your business every single day. Let's break this down into 3 big reasons bookkeeping matters. 1, peace of mind. 2, smarter decisions. 3, protecting your business. First up, peace of mind. There's nothing worse than the mental weight of not knowing where you stand financially. Even if you don't say it out loud, that uncertainty creeps into everything you do. You wonder, can I afford this new tool? Or am I actually making money on these Etsy sales? Or am I just covering my cost? That uncertainty builds stress, and stress steals your energy, your creativity, and your confidence. Think about it. If you're constantly second guessing whether you can cover next month's expenses, how motivated do you feel to take on a new project or launch a new product? If you're not sure how much money is left after bills, how comfortable do you feel investing in your business? Clean books remove that background noise. When you know exactly how much came in, how much went out, and what's left over, you can breathe easier. You don't have to obsessively check your bank balance every day because you know your system is keeping track for you. And here's the kicker. Peace of mind doesn't come from fancy software or expensive accountants. It comes from clarity, from having numbers you can actually trust. The second reason bookkeeping matters is smarter decision making. Every business decision you make has a financial impact, whether you realize it or not. Should you raise your prices? Should you offer free shipping? Should you buy that new piece of equipment? Should you take on that wholesale order? Without clean books, you're guessing. You might feel like things are going well because the orders are rolling in, but if you don't know your true cost, you can accidentally price yourself into a corner. Let me give you an example. Take Sarah, a seller who makes candles. Beautiful candles. Her sales are strong. She's even starting to get repeat wholesale orders from boutiques. On the surface, everything looks fantastic. But when she breaks down her numbers, she realizes she's losing money on every wholesale order. Why? Because she hadn't tracked her costs closely. She was charging less than it cost her to make and ship the candles once you factored in jars, wax, wicks, packaging, and fees. She was busy, but busy was slowly putting her in the red. That's the danger of not having clean books. Activity feels like progress, sales feel like profit, but without data, you can't tell the difference. Clean books give you the power to make decisions with confidence. They tell you which products are truly profitable, where your money is really going, whether that great opportunity is actually worth it. And here's the bonus. Clean books also help you price with confidence. Instead of pulling numbers out of thin air or copying what competitors charge, you know your cost, your margins, and your break-even point. You're not just guessing, you're calculating. The third reason bookkeeping matters is protection. Let's face it, money mistakes can cost you more than profit. They can cost you opportunities, credibility, and even legal trouble. Now, I'm not here to scare you, and I'm not here to talk about taxes. What I will say is this. When your books are messy, you're leaving your business exposed. Messy books make it harder to catch errors, like duplicate charges, overbilling, or missing payments. They make it harder to spot fraud, like a bank fee that shouldn't be there, or a subscription that's quietly draining your account every month. And messy books make it nearly impossible to defend yourself if you're ever questioned about your numbers. But when your books are clean, you have a paper trail. You have proof. You have clarity. And clarity protects you. Here's another angle. Protecting your time. How many hours have you lost digging through old emails to find a receipt? How much stress have you felt trying to remember whether that Amazon purchase was for your business or for your home? Clean books protect your time by giving everything a place. Expenses get logged, income gets tracked, accounts get reconciled, and when something comes up, you don't have to scramble. You already know where to look. Now, here's something I want you to really hear. Bookkeeping isn't just about numbers. It's about everything those numbers touch. When your books are clean, your stress goes down, your confidence goes up, your decision making improves, your business feels more stable. And that ripple effect is powerful because when you're less stressed, you have more energy to create, to serve customers, to grow your business. When you're confident in your numbers, you stop playing small. You stop underpricing out of fear. You stop saying yes to projects that don't actually pay off. And when your business feels stable, you show up differently. You're not running from behind, constantly trying to catch up. You're leading from the front, building from a place of control. That's the gift of clean books. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, that all sounds nice, but bookkeeping is complicated, it's boring, it's not for me. Let me bust those myths right now. Myth number 1, bookkeeping is too complicated. The truth? Bookkeeping is just tracking money in and money out. Everything else is categories, and categories are learnable. Myth number 2, bookkeeping takes too much time. The truth? If you wait 6 months to touch your books, yes, it's going to take forever. But if you spend 15 minutes a week, it's faster than scrolling Instagram. Myth number 3, bookkeeping is only for real businesses. The truth? The second you accept money for something you sell or a service you provide, you're running a business. And that business deserves clean books no matter how small. So let's circle back. Why does bookkeeping matter? It matters because clean books equal less stress. It matters because you can't run your business blind and expect to thrive. It matters because every dollar you track is a decision you control. Bookkeeping isn't about perfection. It's not about becoming a math person. It's about giving yourself the gift of clarity and control. And once you have that clarity, you'll wonder how you ever worked without it. Next up, we're going to dig into one of the biggest mistakes most small business owners make when it comes to bookkeeping and how you can avoid it starting today. Now that we've talked about why bookkeeping matters, let's get practical. Let's talk about the single biggest mistake I see small business owners make when it comes to their books. Are you ready? It's mixing personal and business finances. That's it. That's the mistake. It sounds almost too simple to be a problem, but trust me, this one habit is at the root of so many bookkeeping disasters. And if you've been guilty of it, don't beat yourself up. Almost everyone starts here. You launch your Etsy shop and you start taking side jobs. And that first money that comes in, it just lands in your personal checking account. The first supplies you buy, you swipe the same debit card you use for groceries. And at first, it feels harmless. Money in is money in, right? But here's the hard truth. Once personal and business spending are tangled together, your books are instantly muddy. And muddy books are like muddy water. You can't see clearly through them. Mixing personal and business doesn't just create a little extra work, it creates chaos. You lose clarity. Was that $237 charge at Walmart for shipping supplies or groceries? Without separation, you're guessing. You waste time. Every time you sit down to do your books, you're forced to play detective. You risk errors. Misclassifying expenses leads to inaccurate reports and bad decisions. You add stress. You never really know if you're making money or just shuffling it around. And maybe the worst part, once your finances are mixed, it's really hard to untangle them. It's like dumping a bag of marbles and a bag of Legos into one pile. You'll spend hours sorting them later, wishing you just kept them separate in the first place. Let me give you a picture. Meet Mike, a small contractor. Mike's business was growing, steady clients, jobs lined up, tools in the truck. But Mike was swiping the same debit card for drywall and for date night. By the end of the month, his bank statement looked like spaghetti. He couldn't tell what belonged to his business and what didn't. When tax season came, Mike spent weeks trying to separate personal charges from business ones. He missed expenses, miscounted revenue, and ended up underpricing his jobs the next year because he didn't really know what they cost. Mike wasn't lazy. He wasn't careless. He just made the same mistake most people make, assuming he could sort it out later. But later never comes. So what's the solution? Separation. One business account, one business card, one clean line between personal and business. That one move transforms everything else about your bookkeeping. Suddenly, reconciliation is easier. Expense tracking is easier. Running reports is easier. And here's the kicker. Separation isn't just about clarity. It's about identity. The moment you open a business account, you start treating your business like a business. It shifts your mindset from side hustle to real operation. Now I'm going to stop right there because I know some of you are already leaning forward thinking, okay, but how do I actually set this up? What counts as business? What about gray areas like internet bills or coffee runs? How do I pay myself once it's all separated? Those are great questions, and they deserve more than a quick 5-minute overview. So here's what we're going to do. In the next episode, I'm going to take you step by step through the process of separating your business and personal finances. I'll walk you through how to open an account, what goes in it, what stays out, and how to handle tricky categories without losing your mind. Because if episode 1 is about awareness, episode 2 is about action. For now, I just want you to remember this. The number one mistake small business owners make is mixing personal and business spending. If you've been doing it, you're not alone. But starting today, you can draw a line in the sand. And in the next episode, I'll show you exactly how. Before we close today, I want to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about myself and about Zero Fluff Books, because I think it's important that you know who's behind the mic. Here's the deal. I didn't come into the world of bookkeeping and small business finance because I thought spreadsheets were glamorous. I came here because I've seen up close what happens when numbers are ignored. I've seen businesses collapse under the weight of messy books, and I've seen the stress and fear that comes with not knowing where your money really stands. And I also know this, it doesn't have to be that way. My name's Lauren, and my background is in accounting. I've got a bachelor's degree in accounting plus a master's degree in management. Early in my career, I spent 4 years working as a revenue agent for the IRS. Now, before you tense up, don't worry. I'm not here to scare you or lecture you. What those 4 years gave me, though, was a front row seat to the way businesses keep or don't keep their books. I saw the patterns, I saw the mistakes, and I saw just how overwhelming it can be when people are left to figure things out on their own. And honestly, that's part of what inspired me to start Zero Fluff Books. Zero Fluff Books isn't here to replace your accountant. It isn't here to turn you into a tax expert. And it's definitely not here to sell you a bunch of complicated software. Zero Fluff Books exists for one reason: to give small business owners, people like you, clean, straightforward bookkeeping education. If you're running an Etsy shop, a small trade, or a side hustle, you don't need theory. You don't need a 200-page textbook. You don't need fluff. What you need are answers. How do I keep my business money separate from my personal money? How do I track my expenses without spending hours every week? How do I actually understand what a profit and loss statement means? Those are the kind of questions this podcast is here to answer. When I started this brand, I chose the name Zero Fluff Books on purpose, because I've been in too many rooms where people used accounting jargon as a weapon, or business owners walked out more confused than when they walked in. That's not what we do here. Here, the philosophy is simple: clarity over complexity, consistency over perfection, education over intimidation. I want you to be able to listen to an episode on your lunch break, walk away, and immediately apply what you learned. That's the standard. If it doesn't work in real life, it doesn't belong here. So who is this podcast really for? It's for the plumber who just wants to know if he's charging enough to cover his cost. It's for the Etsy seller who feels like her shop is doing well but can't figure out why her bank balance never grows. It's for the side hustler who wants to turn weekend sales into something sustainable but feels overwhelmed by the business side of things. If you're any of those people, you're in the right place. Every Monday, you're going to get a new episode that tackles one piece of the bookkeeping puzzle. Some weeks we'll talk about the nuts and bolts, like reconciling accounts or setting up a chart of accounts. Other weeks we'll focus on the bigger picture: how to build habits, how to stay consistent, how to make your books work for you instead of against you. The goal isn't to turn you into an accountant. The goal is to make bookkeeping simple enough that it becomes part of your routine, like brushing your teeth or taking out the trash. Something you do without dreading it. Something that keeps your business healthy in the background so you can focus on what you actually love to do. Now, I want to be clear on something. This podcast is educational. I'm not here to give you tax advice. I'm not here to pitch services, and I'm not here to tell you how to run your business. What I am here to do is give you the tools and the knowledge so you can make better decisions for yourself. That's it. Simple, straightforward, no fluff. And maybe you're wondering, why do I care so much about this? Here's the truth. I care because I know what it feels like to be overwhelmed by numbers. I know what it feels like to have a job, a business, or a dream that you want to grow, but feel like the financial side of it is this massive wall you'll never climb. I've seen too many people with talent and creativity and drive give up, not because they couldn't sell, but because the bookkeeping side crushed them. That shouldn't be the reason someone closes their shop doors. That shouldn't be the reason someone walks away from a trade or a dream. If Zero Fluff Books can keep even one person from quitting because of bookkeeping stress, then it's doing its job. So that's who I am, that's why I'm here, and that's what Zero Fluff Books is about. I'm not here to overwhelm you. I'm not here to talk in circles. I'm here to walk you through the essentials of bookkeeping step by step, one episode at a time, so you can run your business with more confidence and less stress. In the next episode, we're going to dig deeper into that number one mistake we talked about earlier: mixing personal and business spending. We'll break it down into a step-by-step action plan so you know exactly how to separate your finances, keep things clean, and set yourself up for success moving forward. Until then, remember, clean books equal less stress, and that's what Zero Fluff Books is all about. Alright, let's wrap up episode 1. Today we set the stage for this podcast and for the journey we're going to take together. We talked about why bookkeeping matters, not just at tax time, but every single day. We talked about how clean books equal less stress, and we uncovered the number one mistake small business owners make mixing personal and business finances. If there's one takeaway from today's episode, let it be this: you don't have to be perfect with your books. but what you do need to be is consistent. Clean doesn't mean complicated. It means clear. And clarity is what helps you breathe easier, make better decisions, and actually enjoy running your business. Now remember, I only scratched the surface on that big mistake of mixing personal and business. In the next episode, I'm going to walk you step by step through how to separate your finances the right way. We'll talk about opening accounts, what to run through them, how to handle those tricky gray area expenses, and how to make separation a habit that sticks. So if today was about awareness, next week is about action. In the meantime, here's what you can do. Head over to zerofluffbooks.com. That's where you'll find free resources designed to help you start getting organized without the overwhelm. Think of them as quick wins you can grab today, so you don't have to wait for someday. And if you found today's episode helpful, would you do me a quick favor? Share it with another small business owner who might be struggling with their books, whether they're a tradesperson, an Etsy seller, or a side hustler. I promise you, they'll thank you for it. Alright, that's it for episode 1. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I can't wait to keep building with you, one clean, no fluff episode at a time. Until next week, remember this: clean books equal less stress.